Yes, people. It's Jacob on the one up top. Reporting live from outside an arcades. 15 minutes to kick off. It's my daughter's birthday weekend, so I'm having to do bowling and find somewhere to get the game on. But I thought I'd do a quick one before the game starts. Lineups for Spurs are unchanged. The only thing that's horrible is the fact that Udogie doesn't start, which is concerning because we need him, his football intelligence and the ability to come into midfield and defend well with strength. He's very adaptable. No matter who he's gone up against. He's gone up against Salah, he's gone up against Saka, and done very well for a young kid. So, the back four is Ben Davies, Porro, Van de Ven and Romero. It's good to see Basuma back. Everyone going on about if he gets a yellow card he misses Chelsea. Play your strongest team. I'm not having rest players for the Chelsea game. We've got to take on Palace first. That's the most important thing. Your most important game is always your next one. Don't start thinking about 3 or 4 games away. 3 or 4 games away, anything could happen. Sarr's back in. Højbjerg did well last week. But Sarr's got a bit more energy about him. He covers all positions. When the fullbacks go forward, he covers into those positions very well. And then you've got Maddison, Kulusevski, Richarlison and Son. If we go to Palace's side, he's very, very solid, very robust, very Roy Hodgson. You know what I mean? They haven't got Elise and Eze, so the goal threat isn't there. And people are thinking that this is going to be a whitewash. But they've got players, what it is, they've got a lot of workmanship in that side. They've got, the goalie aside, you've got Ward, Anderson, Gay and Mitchell. That's their back four. Not very injury prone, because it seems like that's always their back four. A very decent back four. You've got an England international there. Anderson, for me, is one of the most underrated centre-halves in the league. We've got Lerma, Decore and Hughes. Again, very workman-like. Probably not going to get too much creativity from them three. But you get a lot of industry from them, a lot of heart, and they will disrupt. Especially if Roy Hodgson does what he normally does, and he'll sit in for the first half, hoping for a 0-0 if they get the lead even better. And then Jordan Ayew, Edouard, and Schlupp up front. So again, they don't score many goals, but they have scored goals. Edouard started the season very well. I think the fact that Eze and Elise have been injured, there's no coincidence as to the fact that his goals have dried up. But what it is, everybody knows. I was speaking to my friend who's an Arsenal fan. I speak to all my friends who are Arsenal fans, and it's always feels like it's always a setup when they put Arsenal away at Selhurst Park on a Monday night or a Friday night, or even like a Man United when they're not a great form. All of a sudden, that's the Friday night or the Monday night one. Selhurst Park is always bouncing anyway, but on a Friday night, everyone's had a few beers and whatnot. It's the atmosphere. If there's anybody in the Premier League that becomes a 12th man bar, let's say Anfield, I'll probably go with Selhurst Park. But what it is for me, if we start on the front foot and nick a goal in the first half and make sure that we get the first one, then I think we're going to win. But there's a stat where I think in all of Crystal Palace's games so far at home, nobody, Palace or the opposition, have scored. So it's pretty obvious how Roy Hodgson sets up his team. Be solid, drain the other team in the first half, especially if it's a side like ours or Man City, your Arsenal's, Liverpool's, Man United, Chelsea's. If you're going in there 0-0, the manager's always happy, especially Roy Hodgson. We know that he's a legend in the game, but it's not, he doesn't exactly say let's go at him unless he needs to win the games to survive in the Premier League. So maybe an interesting one. I'm going to go and find myself a screen. I'm going to go 2 predictions like I normally do. So if I go with my head, don't ask me why, but I think it could be a 1-1. I could see Crystal Palace sweating us out. I could see, the Udogie, people think that because he's a left back you won't miss him too much, but going forward he's important because he takes people out of the game. He drives into midfield and all of a sudden causes a headache. I can't see Ben Davies doing that too tough, and if he does he's going to get caught out. Not to scapegoat him or anything, but it's just Udogie's a lot better player. So I can see Palace potentially doing a 1-1, which keeps us unbeaten, let's say. But, you know, if people are talking about us qualifying for the Champions League, or better yet, winning the Premier League, you got to go and win them. If I want to go with my heart, I'll probably go 2-1. My heart always says a Spurs win, just because it does. Not always, but, you know, your heart always says, is always optimistic, or mine is anyway, and I want to win. So I'd go with 2-1, goal scorers. I think Son will get on the score sheet regardless. And I think if it's going to be for Palace, it'll more than likely be Edouard. Edouard or Jordan Ayew hasn't scored in a while, so it could be one of those. So we'll see how it goes at half time. Jacob on the one up top. Yes, people, it's half time. Crystal Palace 0, Spurs 0. Not really much entertainment there. If I'm going to be completely honest, there's a lot of bias towards Tottenham and how we play and our players and all that stuff. But for me, I'm always fair. I would give commendment to Palace. You know, as I said in the preview, that they've got a workman-like, industrious set of players, and it worked in their favour. You know, this is the thing I kind of knew was going to happen. You know, there's pundits and people talking about 2, 3, 4-0 Tottenham, and that still could be the case. But Palace in all their home games, and another one added to that list, haven't conceded or scored a goal in the first half, and this is what always happens. And it's Roy Hodgson. You know, Roy Hodgson is an experienced manager. He knows what he wants, and generally in his career, he's got it that way. In terms of having a team that's set up to not concede too many goals. Granted, they got battered by Newcastle, but at home, that's where they try and make the fortress, and that's why he's always kept teams up, especially Palace. But if I'm going to focus on our side, one thing I forgot to mention in the preview is that I didn't have too much faith in our left-hand side. Richarlison, granted, he's maybe got a couple of assists and looks like he's trying. We've been playing football quite well, and it's like we've got 10.5 men because we've got somebody that's not on form. He's not playing how he was when he was playing for Everton. And we've kind of got someone on the left wing that we feel sorry for, and then now we've got two, because Ben Davies is another one. I don't know how many years he's been at Spurs. I'm talking, we're talking sort of 8-9 years at Spurs. He's probably had 2 good seasons. I wouldn't say an excellent season. He had one under Poch when Danny Rose was quite injury prone, and he had one under Conte. One under Conte was, none of them were world class. And, you're looking at him now. If we're trying to play this high octane, this intensive type football where we're going to press, we're going to be, full of energy, he just doesn't look right. He's popping up in midfield, linking up with Richarlison, and it's just not working. There was an incident where they both ran up for a header at the same time. They both looked at each other while Jordan Ayew was through. Ben Davies is making Jordan Ayew look like an up-and-coming prospect. This guy's like in his 30s and been at Palace for ages, has never pulled up any trees, but he's like the danger man in this game somehow. Because, if I know that Ben Davies is going to be a weakness for our side, these guys play football, they know the game, they've played against him before. Roy Hodgson knows his stuff. You'd look at that and think, if Udogi's out and Ben Davies is in, it's something to capitalise on, They probably would have been doing training exercises on how to deal with Udogi going forward and going backwards, and thought that's going to be a difficult one. Let's focus on Pedro Porro. Wake up in the morning, find out he's potentially not going to be playing, and then all of a sudden he's out the squad. Who's in? Ben Davies. Nice one. You're looking at it, whether it could be Ben Davies, Emerson Royal, you're a little bit happy. Any team playing against Spurs would be. And that's defensively. Mickey van de Ven, it's a lifesaver with him, because without his pace, Palace were in quite a few times. Romero's looked reassured. Pedro Porro's looked okay. I just think, I can't really cuss anyone, to be fair. We've had it nice. We can't play Ange ball and get results all the time. There's Tottenham fans thinking we're just going to play that all the time and get away with it. At some point you get sussed out. Sometimes you're off form. I heard commentators talking about, the bus was late. Bus was late. No, I'm not having that. It's just, I think Palace have done well. it's one of those ones where we've got all the possession but not many ideas. I think, you know, if Ange's gonna give me, I'm not sitting there saying I'm better than Ange, but you know, I'd like to see Brennan Johnson come on. You know, if Palace are hard to break down 60, 70th minute, stick two up front then, you know. Try a diamond. Maybe, you know, just make it a little bit more interesting. If Velez has got to come on as another attacker, let's go and get the win. Because Palace's bench isn't too strong. And to be honest, even though we've had all the possession, Palace have had all the chances. I don't think we've had a shot on target. You know, the only shot on target I can remember was Maddison with the skew-if effort. We looked bereft of ideas, and you know, Palace's defence looked solid. I remember this, you know, this time last season, saying that any one of Palace's back four, probably bar Joe Ward, I would have had at Tottenham. You know, look at Tariq Mitchell, solid left back. You know, imagine if Adoji was injured and we had him coming in. No problem at all with that. I think he's another player along with Joachim Anderson, very underrated. You know, Gay's another one that, you know, before we got Mickey van der Ven, I would have took him. Again, he's looking very reassured today. But I think we need to get it into the wide positions because we're getting gobbled up in midfield. They've got three workers, you know, they've got Will Hughes sitting on Basuma, and then you've got Decore and Lerma just picking up the pieces, and it just leaves Son isolated. It allows the defenders to be aggressive, and Maddison's having to drop into the quarterback position. So we need to get something going wide, and I think Brennan Johnson coming on will give them something different to think about defensively. And if it's not working with one up top, then stick two up and see how it goes. But you know, realistically, no one deserves to be winning the game. Palace have had more chances, but I suppose if that's us riding our luck and we get another victory or result today, hopefully we've seen the best of Palace. So we'll see in the second half. Jake won the one up top. Yes, people. Thought to myself, it's getting a little bit cold. If you see my last two little clips in this video, yeah, this is to wind up a few people, and you know who it is. Been winding me up all weekend about Sellers Park like your Crystal Palace fans, yeah? So, just telling you I'm a little bit cold. Anyway, the final score was Crystal Palace 1, Tottenham Hotspur 2. I need to start going with my heart a little bit. Hold on, it's getting a little bit sweaty in here. I need to start going with my heart a little bit. You know, still in my work gear and that because it got tense after going to the arcades and the bowling with the kids. But yeah, called it again with my heart, 2-1. Well, I'm trying to think where to start. If I'm going to go to, let's say, the opposition and the negatives, if I'm honest, Crystal Palace, for the personnel that they had and after what they did last week, they did their best. And to be honest, like, if you're a Palace fan, you should be proud of what they did because we only had one shot on target and won the game. So effectively, just like Liverpool, when we played them, it would have been a draw if your own player didn't score. But they played well, you know. Jordan Ayew had a good game. He scored a good goal. For me, I know that's not his fault that he handballs it. But if the way I look at it is that if it's hit his chest and hit his hand, and because it's hit his hand, that's given the ability to score the goal. It's the same energy with when we played in the North London derby. You know, Romero obviously didn't mean to handball that, but if he moves, if his hand's not in there, Ben White scores a goal. So if Ben White is getting a penalty for that, then surely both situations are, you know, advantages. But, you know, I'm not going to keep going on about it. It's like, if I'm honest, I thought the goal would be disallowed because the amount of times they couldn't decide whether it hit the hand. But I'm like, every time you're showing me the video, it's hit his hand. Now, if he's chested it, he probably takes it onto his left foot a little bit further. And he probably, I'm not saying he wouldn't score with his left foot, but he wouldn't be able to finish that way. You know, the way it hit his left arm allowed him to put it into the correct path, and he's banged it in the bins. But, you know, it's one of those where the referees, I don't even rely on them anymore. Like, you know, they were saying that Andy Madeley had a good game. I don't think so. There's a lot of times where not only our players, Palace players should have been booked. All I keep hearing is about, if you give it loads to a referee, you get booked. If you kick people, if you tackle someone in the ankles, you get booked. There's a couple of times where our players got literally their Achilles took out, didn't do nothing. Ayew got given about 5 warnings before he got booked. But, it's one of those where I admit that being a referee is a difficult game. But, if I want to talk about my team, because I don't go on about it too much, there was a couple of incidents where all game I kept saying it was needless. I think Ange brought Basuma off because a lot of the time, and I've seen it in a few games, even though he's a boss in midfield, he's too lax. Sometimes it's like, because he's so good, he thinks that everybody's going to respect him. But there was times where Will Hughes was nicking it off him, Decore, Jefferson Lerma. And there was one time where he got the ball nicked off him, and on another day, that could have easily been a goal. If he got the ball nicked on him like that and it was Man City or Liverpool's, we can see the goal quite easily. So he's got to be mindful of that. I know that we play the game on the edge, but that's something he's got to be mindful of. The same with Pedro Porro. There's times where he's a bit erratic. With the goal as well, it's like you had about half an hour to see the ball coming towards you and you still messed it up like that. So that's something that I can't change, and that's something that Ange needs to work on, because we have got players that get caught out and we get lucky. And we've had situations, that's the way we play the football, but, we had Maddison in the North London derby. If Jesus bangs that, all of a sudden the football gets criticised. Today, again, Basuma is very similar to the Jesus situation. We get criticised. We just got to be a little bit careful. I love the way we're playing football, but you just got to be mindful. We can't be picture perfect. And like Ange has always said, as long as you're playing the way he wants to play, he'll take the blame. If I'm going to shout out any players, Maddison's obviously going to get applauded. Son for his pressing and his goal. But again, Papa Sarr, man, no one is going to talk about this guy, but he's just effortless with the amount of time that he covers. I haven't had a look at the stats, but I'm quite confident that he tops the stats in terms of KM's, picked up. He's just everywhere, and shout out Højbjerg as well, because he came on for Basuma. Tottenham fans probably would have thought, what's going to go on here? But thankfully, he came in, shored it up, I haven't got a problem with Højbjerg too tough. I wouldn't want him starting too many games, but, Ange managed the game perfectly. He bought off Basuma knowing that, one more challenge could be booked. He bought off Richarlison and Ben Davies when they weren't cutting the mustard. Shout out Emerson Royal, because he came in. You could see that Palace did the diagonals on him. He killed it in 3 diagonals, and then they didn't know what to do from then on. And shout out Emerson Royal and Brennan Johnson. Brennan Johnson came on within 5 minutes, impacted, and make sure that we scored a goal. So, there'll be people out there that are cussing out Roy Hodgson, but he did what he had to do. There'll be people saying we could have easily drawn the game, we could have. But it's one of the ones we move. I can enjoy my daughter's birthday weekend now, and I don't really care who wins or loses. We're top of the league, and like I say, whether you're going to win a league or be in the Champions League position, the more games you win, the better positioned will be at the end of the season. First and foremost, well, got my words muddled up there. I'm so glad that Bentancur's back. It was nice to see the team cohesion when, it was all about Bentancur coming back rather than the win or Son or Maddison. It's all a team effort. And, if I had more time to talk about it, I can't really fault anybody because everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. I just think if we're going to win a Premier League or maintain Champions League status, we've always got to improve, because Man City can go on a run. Arsenal have been playing badly and they're keeping up with us. And Liverpool, for me, are the dark horses. So, I now can enjoy my weekend. I hope you guys have a blessed weekend. And I don't care whether you support Arsenal, Man United, Liverpool, Chelsea or Man City. See you in a bit. Signing off, Jacob, on the one up top. Go on, you Spurs.